I've made you wait for this one too, haven't I? Coming back to finish our short course and desert truck roundup, I haven't forgotten. We have a lot of them that we've looked at already, and here's the front bumper view of all of them. I have just a few left. We have the Hobeo Hyper 10SC, almost ready to run, that's up behind me. Also in the almost ready to run category is this Kyosho Outlaw Rampage. It's a rear-wheel drive with trailing arms kit, almost ready to run. And you know, it was released in, I think, July of 2019, so it's actually nearly 5 years old. So you can never accuse me of getting in the front of the line here. We really have waited. It's quite a light thing. I've stuck just a basic servo in it. In fact, I'll put in the description a list of everything, because this is a kit, including the body. You need to paint it yourself. I just did a bit of a fade from bright red to black, and I think it came up all right. But this is the silver one that you might see in the pictures. So, rear-wheel drive, live rear axle. It's a fairly loose diff, but not loose enough to spin, so that's probably about right, honestly. I'm running a brushless system, just a basic, I think it was 3000 kV, was it? Ooh, it's 3700 kV. I made that face because higher kV is actually good, it draws a lot of power, but the problem with this kit that I think we're going to see today is that it's running a 48 dot pitch spur gear. That means little tiny teeth. I don't think I've ever had an off-road car in 110 scale with 48 dot pitch that hasn't blown a spur, no matter how nicely you set the mesh. The internal gearbox is a 32 dot pitch though, and the rest of it actually is pretty nice. You've got what looks like 2 mil thick bash plates underneath it, really chunky A-arms at the front. You've got sway bars in the front and I think in the rear because of the nature of these trailing arms. Yes, you do. And these wheels, which are fully functional and intact, they're ready to be spares. And if you take one off and you don't want as much, there's also a bar there, so you can just put the one on the back if you prefer that look. I've given this the stock configuration. I quite like it. It's just my basic JX servo for steering. It's got nice ALU suspension and the basic hobby wing combo. Let's see how it drives. I don't think I'm going to be running a gyro for this video, although I have installed one. And we shall just see what we think of this car. Let's do it. Now, she's actually quite a front heavy little thing when you pick it up from the front. There's a lot of mass in the front. 2 body clips there, 2 body clips here, and these little arms usually hold underneath that cross member. It's a very simple interior. Pleasingly, we can get the battery in from the side without needing to take the body off. It just slides in that way. That means no Velcro. Then it also means limitation to a brick. I'm actually going to use a 2200 3S, which fits easily. It's going to wiggle and jiggle a bit, but you know, that'll be okay. So we didn't actually have to lift the body off for this. I'm just showing you what's going on inside. It's a clever little thing, and it's certainly not going to come out. So it's a quick run 10BL 120. I could probably get away with a 60 if I had a 3000 kV motor, but as you can see, well, hopefully there's a 3700 kV brushless in there, not censored. And we've got the WP5323 LV, my favorite cheap servo for steering duties. Bell crank with servo saver on the inside, quite soft. It's there actually on the servo, not in the bell crank, and quite soft. You can adjust it by doing up the screw more, but you don't really need to. Adjustable aluminium shocks, omnidirectional tyre tread as well. Oh, the other thing to note is I had to make extension wires to reach from the ESC to the motor. You may not have to, but with the hobby wing system I did with my placement of components, but it worked. Everything's plastic, but it's nice. There are nice turnbuckles for adjusting your toe as well in front, and a fairly beefy rear. Also, there are light buckets for the front. I haven't bothered populating them, but you absolutely could. And just power them off your receiver, which lives in that box in there. I'm running my Noble NB4 Pro, not the new Plus. I've got no protection on the body yet, but we're also not going to send this thing to the moon. There's 3S power. I'll put the button there in the rear. And this is its very first drive. Oh, I don't like that sound. I tried very hard to get the mesh right. Oh dear. The slipper is kind of loose on purpose because I do not want to break this spur. Alright, let's get it down to the track, see how it drives. Well, it's the first time back to the track in a while. Gosh, I'm worried about that spur gear. Now, no gyro, and taking it easy on the throttle to start. So easy. I don't really want to roll it either, I've got to tell you. It's too pretty. So the back kicks out like it should. Ah, this is no good, we've got to get you higher, hang on. And now you can see. All right, let's try that again. So I'm being so careful with this spur. I just don't want to bust the spur. I got the mesh very close. Now when you're cornering on a track like this with bumps and stuff, if the back kicks out, she's likely to grab and roll with the live rear axle. So this is not the native environment for this car, but I've got to say, counter steering so far has been a doddle. Again, not using a gyro. It's also my first time driving something with a bit of speed since December, because I've been focusing on the comp, working my way towards the nationals, which we've just had for crawling. So I've just been off the fast stuff, but what a nice way to start it again. So it's 5 years old. What's changed? Manufacturers are increasingly embracing the larger dot pitch on gears now, and there's been a surge in popularity of trailing arm, there's been a surge in popularity of what am I saying? Of trophy truck, desert truck kind of things. Clearly this is not my forte, this stuff. Wow, it jumps nicely. So a few things to note. The body is a little wonky in the rear. I can't work out how to straighten it. It just might be that some of the plastic needs heating and then rebending. I followed the very simple instructions, and the almost ready to run kit was easy to assemble. Counter steering here, as I said, is beautiful. The grip on these tyres, even the undriven front ones, is very nice. It's predictable. It's not gripping too much and it's not sliding too badly. Can we? I think I just blew a tyre off the rim. Whoops. Okay, well the bad news first is these are beadlock wheels, but they don't grab the tyre particularly well. This was on its side and I just tried to flip it back over and it just blew the tyre clean out of the lock. So that is a shame. I suppose gluing it might help. You won't need to worry about it on the front, but the rear, I'll need to pull it apart and lock it back in. Now I was mentioning that there's been a real surge in popularity of these trailing arm rigs while I was trying to drive and talk at the same time. In a sense, this 5-year-old vehicle was a little bit ahead of its time because we're seeing a lot of other good stuff out there now. We even have some other trailing arm vehicles here, such as the recently reviewed Baja Ray 2.0, and the SBR 2.0 is also here. I just haven't made a video yet. I actually like the control of this one better. Probably that's helped because it has a very simple traditional polycarbonate body. It doesn't have that beautiful big frame which is super strong on the modern cars that Horizon brands are putting out, but it means it's really lightweight too. It jumps beautifully and it handles just nice. I mean, look at the angles, look at the geometry of this thing. So the caster angle of these tires is actually quite aggressive. The toe is minimal, but I mean you set that when you build it, but the no you don't actually, it comes preset. You can adjust it. But yeah, the angle here is actually quite good. The rear is neutral as you'd expect on a live rear axle, and it somehow just works. I haven't had long enough to drive it yet to give you a proper driver's perspective, but as a first look at this thing, this 5-year-old thing, I must say it drives better than it probably should. I mean, I have also driven the Traxxas, the UDR. My friend Simon has a UDR and I've driven that, and the Baja Ray 2.0. Both of them are much more unwieldy than this thing. Keep in mind also, we've got a lot of floating weight here, unsprung weight I should say, not floating, unsprung weight with the motor and gearbox on the axle. Neither of the other cars I've mentioned have that. Maybe that's why it worked better, because there's less sprung weight. The body itself, it really is quite light, and it handled very well. It steers well, it was easy to counter steer, again, no gyro. I've got one installed, but I chose not to use it for this video, and didn't it just jump beautifully? These are small jumps, but these things are traditionally designed to do lots of the smaller stuff and not maybe the crazy stupid bashing that we do with the more traditional short course trucks. Although I somehow suspect it might just take it. These are some beefcake front arms, aren't they? And some properly legit bash plates, which probably would deform in a big enough hit, but they're gorgeous. And for the smaller stuff like this, hitting incidental rocks and stuff, beautiful. So that is the Kyosho Outlaw Rampage, almost ready to run kit with a brushless system, with an intact 48 pitch spur gear after admittedly only 6 or 7 minutes of driving on 3S. It went alright. I will do more with rear wheel drive. We've got the Pro 2 to look at next in this series, and the Hobeo Hyper 10SC, and then, my friends, then we can do the big roundup that has all of these 110 and 1/8 scale cars together to see what car is best for who, and maybe what cars have little improvements to make, and then we'll start looking at improving them and just making some cost-aware upgrades that make it better, give you some good bang for your buck. I'm quite a fan of this thing. Don't buy it if you're after a hard basher. Do buy it if you're after this kind of driving experience. This is the best driving experience I've had with trailing rear arms so far. I'm still, just be aware, semi-new to fast stuff. I've got a lot of them. I've been driving them for years, but I don't have a racing background like some of the other guys have. So, as always, this is a basher's perspective. Now, we're coming closer to that big roundup at the end of all this. I've got a couple of things to mention. We also have the HPI Jumpshot SC2 or SCV2. It's a rear-wheel drive short course truck, and we've done a review on that. You can see that in the description. That's one of the rear-wheel drive options. I haven't gotten a rear-wheel drive Slash, and I'm not going to for this roundup, partly because the cost is just so obscenely high for Australia, and partly because it's a very well-known vehicle. So a lot of you guys watching probably already have an idea of what that's like. Now, I've also reviewed the Pro 4 SC10. This is a very beautifully poised and balanced truck, and it's one of the cheaper RTR options. I mention this because there's also a Pro 2 rear-wheel drive short course truck. I actually have one in my office ready for filming. So we're going to look at that as well before I do the big roundup. That's going to give us, at least for the rear-wheel drive options, it's going to give us the HPI Jumpshot, it's going to give us the Pro 2, and it's going to give us the 5-year-old Kyosho Rampage. There's 3 similar-ish options, each with their own differences. Obviously the trailing arms make this quite different, particularly since the motor is floating with it, which is a very traditional design. There's a lot of mass in the back of that, and we saw how that handled. But the good news is, it means you've got a lot of choice. Thanks for watching, guys. Throw me a like, and I'll see you again right here on RC-TNT with more fast and slow stuff. There's a lot going on. Stick around.